On your Thursday episode of Locked On Raptors, the Raptors fall to the Dallas Mavericks, but they are finally part of the modern NBA, and that is pretty sweet.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Thursday, February the 29th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 10 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on the Very Bad website at Woodley Sean. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors, and you can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. The link is in the description of the podcast. It's free to join, and we would love to see you in there. It's a great little community we got building around the show. Great spot to be during games, between games, at all times of the day. It's right there for you. Again, free to join, link in the description. You can find the show for free on your favorite podcast apps every single day. Of course, you can subscribe, follow, rate, review, tell a friend. It's much appreciated. However you support the show, when you go ahead and do that. We are also on YouTube. Go to the YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you will get a heads up via push notification that the show is going live every single time it's premiering or going live. So go do that. Much appreciated to all those who have joined us recently on the YouTube channel. Nice little surge of subscribers lately. Let's keep that going. All right. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Grammarly. Make a bigger impact at work with Grammarly. Sign up and download for free at grammarly.com/podcast. And let's get to it here, talking about a Toronto Raptors 136-125 loss to Luka Dončić and the Dallas Mavericks. We will dig in to a big night for the BBQ trio. We got the good, the bad, and the We got our big takeaways coming up, and we're going to do all of that with our pal Jamar Hinds from Raptors Republic, the god of the game recap. Jamar, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing pretty good. No game recap today. I got a little bit lazy, but, you can still call me the god of the game recap.
Look, man, you got to take a break once in a while. It's fine. You do wonderful recaps all the bloody time. People can go read your other recaps if they're missing yours here today. Let's dive in, shall we? It was, first of all, a bloody entertaining basketball game for the most part last night, which was pretty thrilling. And I think this kind of dovetails into my big takeaway from this game, Jamar, which is that, yes, they lost. Yes, Luka Dončić figured out their defense where they threw a bunch of different looks at him throughout the night. He softened it up. He did the Luka Dončić thing. He's a visionary passer. He's an incredible scorer. He does all the things to make all of your best attempts to stop him moot. But this was a game where the Raptors hung with a Mavericks team that's playing pretty well, that has one of the best players in the world, an MVP candidate perennially. And it felt to me, sort of like an arrival of sorts, a bit of proof that the Toronto Raptors are now part of the modern NBA and that they can score a bunch of points, stick with teams that can also score a bunch of points, and they feel like they're playing basketball that is suited to 2024 for the first time in quite some time. Obviously, this isn't the first game they've looked like this. It's been 5, 6, 7, 8 games where they've really started to hone what their system is going to look like. But against a really potent offensive team in the Mavericks, the Raptors punched back and punched back and punched back. And this is a very new thing for this Raptors team, considering what we've seen in recent years, right, Jamar?
Yeah, and you even saw that proof against Indiana, who scores more than anybody in this league right now. And they're able to keep up with them. There's just so much more balance with the roster. You have improved shooting with Quickley's arrival. RJ's been damn near a 40% three-point shooter himself. Even the recent addition of Kelly Olynyk gives you more looks because he's a great passing big, and kind of so is Jakob, and Jakob's been getting himself involved, and he's been really crucial to the 3-game pizza party streak, which is now over. But yeah, for this game specifically, wanted to get into Luka, defending him first.
Yeah, we can get into that. Just to kind of finish off the point of it feeling like they're in the modern NBA again. The offense over the last 5 games, number 6 in the league. It's just 5 games, but the teams they're up in the top 10 with are all the teams you'd expect to be in the top 10: Milwaukee, Denver, Indiana, yada, yada, yada. I think Dallas is in there as well. The offense has been just more punchy, more potent, more able to withstand the defensive deficiencies this team still has. 5 straight games scoring 120 plus, which, man, earlier in the season, like during the Dennis Schroeder in the starting lineup era, 120 plus over 5 straight games felt like a far-fetched dream for this squad. And yeah, they feel like they are just sort of on the level with the offensive revolution for the first time in quite some time.
You know
That
what?
said,
Something just clicked for me. Well,
Yeah,
as we were talking about this offense, I just realized that it's been quite a while. Remember, even last season or the season before, the Raptors would always have that predictable like 6-minute slump where they just couldn't score a basket.
100%.
We haven't had one of those in a while, have we?
No. They just like run their stuff and get good stuff when they run their stuff. That's the basketball analysis you come to this podcast for. Yeah. The thing is that up against Luka Dončić, all of your best laid plans on defense to help sort of match your offensive potency, they can be rendered moot and sort of washed away because Luka Dončić is a genius. Yeah, and that's what happened in this game, right? To me, this felt like, you're Lord of the Rings guy, Jamar.
Not really, but I can understand an analogy, so go ahead.
Okay, so in Return of the King, when they're trying to defend Minas Tirith from the hordes of Mordor, they bring out this big flaming wolf to knock down the doors and get into the big city of kings. And to me, Luka Dončić in this case was kind of like the big flaming wolf's head. It's like, okay, there was a noble defense put up by the Raptors. They did all they could to defend the gates. But eventually, the big flaming wolf's head that is Luka Dončić is going to knock it down. Thankfully, not everybody in the league is Luka Dončić. And, I think they've shown some defensive stuff lately that's going to translate a little more effectively across all opponents. Luka's a special case. They threw a bunch of different stuff at him. I thought in the first half, they really had him off balance, springing traps on him, throwing 2 to the ball, standard drop defense here and there. I thought they did a good job at doing the one thing you can do against Luka, which is just make him have to figure out different defenses. But eventually, he's going to soften up those rickety wooden doors and burst it in, and the trolls and the orcs are going to come and demolish you, and that's what happened. But what were your thoughts of the way the Raptors defended Luka in this one? Was there anything positive to take away from what they threw at a guy who's very much going to be in the MVP conversation, not just this year, but for many, many years to come?
Well, you're right about the different looks. The trapping was kind of successful in the first half, especially early in the game. Mm-hmm. I love the possession where Luka was kind of driving into the paint, kind of did that little half spin, didn't see Scottie come out of nowhere and just totally ripped the ball from him and then dunked it the other way.
Beautiful.
That was a fun play. For Dallas, I like their addition of getting who's the second athletic big that they use now?
Daniel Gafford.
That's it. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, him as another lob threat, that kind of hurt the Raptors with both him and Lively being able to do that. When he couldn't do the typical Luka thing where he gets isolation and he's able to kind of do what he wants, whether he wants to like initiate a step back 3 or drive to the rim. He didn't have as many of those opportunities because the Raptors tried to double him as much as they can. But then he was able to. He had 16 assists in this game. Some of those passes. The first half when Scottie was looking to kind of help on Luka driving, and then he just did that hook pass to Tim Hardaway Jr. in the corner. I think Matt Devlin was thrown off in the second half by one of those whip passes into the corner where I don't even remember what Devlin was saying mid-sentence, but he was like, what?
I thought my TV had become like a 3D TV when that pass happened. I know he went at the top of the arc and he just kind of whips it while looking this way to the far corner.
It's like a picture of like one of those side throws where he just like whizzed by a couple guys' ears. It's just he's an incredible passer. He had 16
bending space and time with ridiculous dimes. Yeah, it's nuts.
But yeah, and he was able to kind of get in a better rhythm offensively in the second half. Didn't make any. He was only 1 for 8 from 3, but he did a really good job throwing the Raptors off of shot fakes. You saw that one possession where he got into the paint, might have traveled, but he got into the paint and like I think he did like 3 shot fakes, and then he fooled Jakob with a ball fake, and then I think he took an illegal step back before making that shot. But he also used that fake in a couple of different other possessions to throw the Raptors off. And Luka's obviously one of the smartest players in the league, and that's just what's going to happen. I believe he's I believe he's the first player to have a 30-point triple-double on his birthday. I think that came out yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of surprised that hasn't been done by like LeBron or Westbrook or somebody. But yeah, he's the first player to ever do that. And the Raptors had hung tough. Got a little bit rough in the second half because they were up by 1. It felt like it was going really back and forth in the first half. But yeah, as things got figured out in the second half, the separation came.
Yeah, it was really that third quarter, right, where Luka just, kind of went into full carving mode,
Right.
like he was at the buffet station with the prime rib, just, dicing up and mostly just serving up fine cuts to his teammates more than anything else, on top of all the scoring he brought to the table. Yeah, Luka Dončić, really good at basketball, and I don't think it's any sort of point of shame that the Toronto Raptors didn't have the juice to keep up with him. And overall, again, bloody entertaining game, lots of good stuff to go on. And speaking of that good stuff, Jamar, we're going to talk about some of the good stuff, which came largely in the form of the trio that is going to guide this thing into the future. Scottie Barnes, Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, all with lots of good stuff on the table last night. We'll talk about that coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors, who have teamed up this season with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each and every week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire every week, we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Josh has picked out for us on this week's eBay Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. Got a few guys here. Bennedict Mathurin, we saw him absolutely cook the Raptors on Monday, was kind of the reason that game wasn't a blowout. You got Corey Kispert on the Washington Wizards. There's nothing better than a guy who gets lots of opportunity on a really bad basketball team for fantasy, especially down the stretch. But the guy we're going to go with here is our old pal, Dennis Schroeder, who Josh has picked because with Ben Simmons now coming off the bench, the Nets have an all-important 5 games next week, loaded schedule, lots of opportunity for Schroeder to start and get some short-term value for you on your fantasy team. So as a streaming option this week, Dennis Schroeder is your guy. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. The same goes for your vehicle. If you have any need for your car to whatever part it might be, eBay Motors is the place to go. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit available only to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Back here, kicking it with Jamar Hinds of Raptors Republic, breaking down the Raptors' loss to the Dallas Mavericks to fall to 22-37 on the season. Big game tonight for the Atlanta Hawks taking on the Brooklyn Nets in the very sad, very compelling, to me at least, a sicko race for the 10 seed in the Eastern Conference. I think we're rooting for the Nets tonight to add to the loss column of the Hawks. Maybe our pal Dennis Schroeder can come through there. The Nets feel eminently passable. The Hawks, obviously, a little bit less so. But we'll worry about that another time. Jamar, BBQ, Barnes, Barrett, Quickley, all really good in this game. Barnes, kind of an off night for him, quote unquote, with only 9 of 22 from the field, 0 of 5 from deep as his 3-point slide continues, but 19 points, 11 boards, 7 assists, 3 steals, a block, doing Scottie Barnes things. You had Immanuel Quickley in this game, 28 points, 5 boards, 9 assists. I think probably the best he's blended the offensive aggression with the playmaking chops he's shown so far in any game as a Raptor. And then RJ Barrett continues to just be ruthlessly efficient, at least from shooting shots from the field. Free throws, not so much. We'll get into that probably, but 26, 5 and 6 for RJ Barrett in this one as well. 4 of 6 from downtown. A really, really great night for those who believe in that trio as the sort of core three going forward for this team. No, Jamar?
Yeah, and they all brought different things to the table. Scottie, I feel, was pretty solid defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And, he had the assignment of being the primary defender on Luka quite a bit in the first half. And also, he did a really good job on the offensive boards. There was that one possession, I believe, in the third quarter where he was basically fighting with two Mavs bigs, and you just kept tipping it over and over and over again. That was probably where 60% of those offensive boards came from. He finished with 5 offensive boards. Quickley, his 3-point shooting. I remember a couple of weeks ago where Darko was saying that we want to get Quickley's 3-point attempts up until double digits, around 10 or something. The last 4 games, he's pretty much done that. He had 8 against the Nets, 11 against the Hawks, 7 last game against the Pacers, and 11 in this game. He was 5 for 11 from 3. And like you said, I feel he's done a really good job of finding the balance when to play make and when to shoot. He had 28 points. I believe that's his high as a Raptor, I want to say.
That sounds right. Yeah, maybe he's
I don't
had
think
that before, even to, yeah, but yeah, it was.
I don't think
easily,
he's had
I think his best, most across the board game as a Raptor in terms of playmaking and scoring, right?
Yeah, and he was doing, and he finished a few plays at the rim as well. So I really like what Quickley has done. And then RJ, I feel like out of everybody, almost, you kind of know what you're going to get from RJ every single night, which is something you probably didn't expect when the trade happened. But
No.
he's gonna get to the rim. He does a great job of drawing fouls. The free throw percentage is getting scary, and I'm wondering what is in the water here in Toronto, because the Raptors have been struggling as a whole from the free throw line for a few seasons now. And RJ was an 80% free throw shooter in New York, and it's dropped to 55 here, 59.5 as a free throw shooter.
Bizarre, man.
It's bizarre.
Weird.
His field goal percentage right now is competing with his free throw percentage, because his field goal percentage is 55 and his free throw percentage 59. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And like I said, on similar attempts, like basically 5 a game, he shot 83% from the free throw line as a Knick. So a 24% drop off, I don't understand that one. But he's doing a great job with the 3-point shooting to, I guess, kind of offset that, where he's shooting 40% from 3. He made 4 more in this game. And him and Quickley did their best to kind of keep this one close, where either Quickley scored or he found him driving kick, off cuts, stuff like that. And also, I feel like the 3 of them together, they were all doing a great job passing in this game.
Yeah.
Scottie had 7 assists. Barrett had 9. Barrett had 6. Quickley had 9. Barrett keeps flirting with season highs, it seems like, every game with his assists, which is great to see. The Raptors had 34 assists as a whole, but I think the 3 of them both did a great job of finding Jakob and getting him involved as that kind of, fourth person, whether it be as a roller or whether he had a mismatch to post up. I thought they just did a really good job of keeping Jakob involved, just as a third scorer. So, offensively, like we mentioned before, a lot of good things, and collectively as a whole, what did they combine for? About like 86 points. I feel like this is probably one of their better games in terms of that.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you a lot of sort of belief in what they got cooking as a trio, right? And I think the way they're working in concert with one another is getting better by the day, right? Like, I think they are all very much on the string with one another. We're seeing more of Scottie and Quickley interacting on the floor with one another. Barrett just kind of roars off of cuts coming off of Jakob Poeltl screens and scores coming off of any pass from anybody. It's amazing. Yeah, really, really good stuff from the trio. I think it's just... with Quickley in particular, man, the 11 threes, that is like the sweet spot, right? In the month of February for Quickley, 8 threes a game, 42% from deep. Like, I don't know if we've really quite properly laid out what a game changer that has been for this Raptors offense, right? Just not something they had any element of before the trade. And, you know, I think over the course of January, obviously the team was in a state of flux. He missed some time. I don't think he was quite harnessing that aggressiveness quite the way he has over the last 5 games or so. But he's really settling into his own right now. And we get more of this, Immanuel, quickly down the stretch. Like, this is the type of player that, you know, that we sort of envisioned when, you know, I was calling it for it in June. Go get Immanuel quickly on this team. Go get a player like that. This is the sort of glimpses of the fringy potential all-star guard that Immanuel quickly can be with his offensive tools. And it was really great to see him finish 5 of 7, you know, from 2-point range in this game, particularly against a team that boasts 2 really athletic, kind of nasty big men in Derek Lively II and Daniel Gafford, who I think overall a big part of why the Mavs won this game on top of Luka's brilliance was Gafford and Lively were just kind of too much athletically for the Poeltl-Olynyk duo, which, like, they're going to be too much athletically for most duos, but I think Poeltl and Olynyk in particular felt very much kind of outgunned in those matchups. But to have Quickley go 5 of 7 with a couple of just glorious finishes over, you know, like one super high off glass over a bearing down Lively. That's the stuff. Those are those incremental bits of growth for Quickley that, you know, I was never concerned about his lack of ability to score inside the rim for the Raptors just yet. You know, I think it was all part of the learning process, and he's very much a developmental piece as much as anybody else on this team is right now. But to see him kind of gain that confidence, gain that sort of improved interior acumen. He's up to 41% on twos for the Raptors. You know, since the trade, he was down below 40 previously. So, you know, on the way up there too. Really encouraging stuff. Quickly totally changes what this offense is capable of, and is, I think, probably the biggest reason why they have entered the modern NBA, going back to my original point in the first segment of like, this is just an offense that functions like an offense should in 2024. And that 3-point shooting gravity he brings is such a huge part of it. Any parting shots here on the BBQ trio before we move into our good, bad, and Jamar?
I'll actually save that for the next segment because I just had a little bit more.
That's a tease, baby. We will come back and do that coming up on the other side. We got the good, the bad, and the to round out the show. Here we go. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Grammarly. If you're like me, you got to write a lot of emails at work. It's not fun. Writing emails is hard. It takes a lot of time. Grammarly is your AI writing partner to help you communicate more effectively and efficiently so you can make a bigger impact at work. 96% of Grammarly users report that Grammarly helps them craft more impactful writing. Grammarly works across 500,000 apps and websites. By understanding your writing and context, Grammarly provides relevant, personalized suggestions. Their tone suggestions help you navigate even the most difficult work conversations. Grammarly is the gold standard of responsible AI with 14 years of experience in just about every IT certification under the sun. Grammarly is a secure AI writing partner that helps your team make their point and move faster. Don't spend time crafting long emails and having to overhaul them, edit, proofread, etc., etc. Grammarly can help you make a bigger impact at work with Grammarly. Sign up and download for free at Grammarly.com/podcast. That's GRAMMARLY.com/podcast. Easier said, done. Rounding out the show here with Jamar Hinds from Raptors Republic as we get into the good, the bad, and the Before we do that, just a heads up, Locked On Sports Today 24/7 is our all-day streaming channel with a Locked On shows covering the biggest stories in sports all day long for you. A perfect thing to have in the background while you're working, whatever it might be. Go subscribe to Locked On Sports Today 24/7 right now, or once you're done listening to this. Okay, let's dive into the good, the bad, and the way we recap every single Toronto Raptors game here in the final segment after a game, a thing we liked, a thing we didn't like, and a thing that's got us a little bit intrigued about the most recent Toronto Raptors basketball game. What's your good, Jamar?
So, yeah, I just wanted to touch a little bit more on Quickley for my good because I felt like he was the best player for the Raptors in this game. It's been the last 4 games, the field goal percentage, he's shot over 50%, at least 50% in all 4 games. And also with 24 games as a Raptor, he's only finished in single digit scoring 4 times out of the 24 games. So from a consistency standpoint, I feel like the Raptors have gotten what they were looking for. We've talked about how he's kind of helped the offense look more like a modern offense nowadays. And yeah, I just wanted to give Quickley my good because I just thought that he did a really good job in this game, whether it be early, whether it was in the fourth quarter when the Raptors were trying to make that little run where, Matt Devlin tries to spark on that comeback, it's an 11-point game, 3 minutes left type of thing. I just felt like Quickley was solid all game, so I'll give him my good.
Yeah, in a game where the Raptors had to counterpunch a lot, he was kind of their haymaker to really cut into that Mavs lead whenever they extended it out 7, 8, 10, whatever it was. Great stuff from IQ. He's a blast. My good in this game, Jakob Poeltl, man. Really, I think, unheralded performance in this one. Again, in tough against a couple of really athletic bigs. He struggled in those kinds of matchups. You think of games against, say, the Cleveland Cavaliers where Jarrett Allen has kind of punked him a little bit this season. He held up, absolutely held his own in this one. 16, 7, and 6 with 4 steals and 3 blocks. And I think
a hell of a line.
Yeah, man. And his defense of late, I think, has really ratcheted up. It seems like they have a plan for how they want to use him. And his rim protection numbers in the last 4 games, Jamar, kind of ridiculous. In the last 4 games, he's holding opponents to 42.9% shooting at the rim. That's 22.3 percentage points better than league average in that span. He's actually giving this defense a chance. Again, we talked about the reasons why the defense fell apart in this game. A lot of them Luka Dončić related. And then in the fourth quarter, Kyrie Irving just kind of doing Kyrie Irving things.
Right.
That's going to happen. That's why the Mavericks have built the team they have built for those two guys to overcome even the best of defenses. But Jakob Poeltl is giving them a real shot to have a credible, passable defense right now. And he's just, I don't think you can heap enough praise on him for what he's done recently. He has been a critical cog in the reshaping and reimagining of what this Raptors team is, and all of the misgivings about the trade for him and the fit problems that, the trade initially created. He fits this team beautifully right now, and they are far better off having him than they would be not having him as they attempt to sort of take the next steps into the Scottie Barnes era. My bad, and let's go to your bad first. What you got for your bad, Jamar?
Yeah, and it's not just from this game. It's kind of been overall since he's been a Raptor, but not a big fan of the Bruce Brown minutes. I know he's part of the rotation, and I know that eventually probably they're going to end up trading him. But it's just when you look at his overall stats since being a Raptor, especially in February, he's under 40% from the field. He's under 20% from 3. So the defense is sometimes there, sometimes it's not. He got blown by a couple times in this game. He smoked a couple of the most point blank layups you'll ever have.
Total backbreaker last night that led to a Luka cherry pick bucket at the other end.
Exactly. It's not as bad as the other one. I think a couple weeks ago where he even went on social the next day and he's like, I've never missed a layup like that before. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out how the Raptors get him implemented like something resembling what he looked like with Brooklyn, with Denver, because so far haven't seen that version of Bruce Brown. Haven't seen the version of Bruce Brown that had him get a 2-year $45 million deal from Indiana. Like this is nothing like. And me being a Nuggets fan as well, this is a completely different Bruce Brown than what I watched last season. So it's just, how do the Raptors get him anything like he was the last couple seasons? I don't know.
Yeah, I think Brown is very clearly the one guy in the 9-man rotation whose role is not clearly defined, right? Like, we know what Abaji and Dick and Olynyk are supposed to do off the bench. We know what Scottie Barnes does. We know what everyone is supposed to do when they're out there. Brown, it feels like they're still figuring out where he best fits in. And look, he's not been good. I feel like I've been sort of on like the Bruce Brown defender side because it seems like the sentiment on him has kind of gotten to an insanely negative degree. And look, part of it's on him. He's missing bunnies. He's not hitting shots. He was 0 for 5 last night. He was not good outside of like a couple instances of, here's a nice little pick and roll he runs, late in the clock with Jakob Poeltl to get a bucket. Here, the rebounding was decent, all of that. Right. The transition playmaking, I think, from him is a real, high point for what he does. But in the half court, yeah, there's not really, I think, a set plan for him. And I don't know if they're using him in the ways that Bruce Brown has historically been used well. And I think having Kelly Olynyk on the team, a spacing big who's playing a lot of his minutes with Bruce Brown, I do think there is a way to unlock some of that screen and dive stuff that Bruce Brown does really well. Like, he scores most of his buckets in the paint. Yeah, he's a smaller guy, but he has historically been a guy who can play that sort of, that screen and dive. The thing Josh Okogie does pretty well with the Suns type of thing where, he's not big, but he has the skill set to work in the short roll. I wonder if you could run him with, some pick and roll actions with even like a Grady Dick, getting some looks with the ball in his hands. When Quickley's in with the bench, maybe run some pick and roll where he's screening for Quickley and seeping into the middle of the floor and working from space. They've not really done that outside of like the first game he played with the Raptors way back after the trade. And I wonder if that's a way to unlock him more into a spot where he has historically been very successful. We'll see. He's not fitting in right now. I still think it's worth throwing him out there because I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's a good player who's playing badly. I think those are two different things. And so there are ways I think the Raptors can put him in better spots, but also just hit a bunny, man. Please. It's not that hard. You should be able to knock in your layups and your little push shots, which is a thing that he has historically been good with. And my bad on top of all that, just the bench lineup last night. I think this was their worst stint. They did not look very good. -11 in 8 minutes together. Ochai Agbaji plays just 8 minutes, which I felt like he probably could have played a little bit more, especially when Kyrie Irving's cooking or, you need someone to throw on Luka. Obviously, he's not huge, but probably one of their best shots at just putting a body who can stay with him out there. And they didn't play him enough, I don't think. So that was strange. They looked out of sorts on offense. Their defense was sloppy. Kelly Olynyk was getting kind of bludgeoned on the defensive glass by Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively when they were out there. This is a lineup that needs Scottie Barnes to play huge. Scottie has got to be a massive defensive rebounding force. And there was one possession during one of these bench stints where he kind of soared in for a massive defensive rebound. Quickly got it up the floor, I think, to Bruce Brown, and then Bruce made a quick pass. It might have been to Grady Dick or somebody else, and it was like an instant cash bucket at the other end. And I'm like, okay, like that's what you need. Scottie Barnes has to help with the gang rebounding in these lineups big time, because Kelly Olynyk, for all he brings that is good, he is getting cooked on the defensive glass right now. And so for that lineup to be viable, I think you need to see a little bit more of Scottie and just sort of the team rebounding being a lot stronger to keep it viable. What's your from this game?
Yeah, so my is not basketball related, and we're going back to the whole pizza party thing. First of all, I'm a little bit confused why they didn't have it the day before this game, once they had actually won the 3 games in a row. So in my opinion, they should have had it on Tuesday.
We're getting into pizza party theory. I'm so happy. I'm here for it.
I'm because it's like, okay, you won 3 in a row, and now I think they said that they were going to have it, their dinner, they're going to have it after practice today, right? So they've already, the streak is over. And it's kind of like now you're coming off a loss and having this celebration. It doesn't, for me, it doesn't hit the same. Also, Quickley made a post on I want to say Snapchat of a whole spread of food last night, and it has people wondering, did they already have the dinner? Was that the dinner? Was he just trying to throw us off? A lot of why wasn't it pizza? Some people were wondering that too. So
Darko's too sophisticated for Za, man. He wanted something a little more high end.
Are you a pineapple on pizza person? Yes or no?
We talked about this earlier this week. Yeah, because I'm an adult who likes sweet and salty.
Okay.
And sweet and salty is an undefeated combination of flavors, and this is just a vehicle by which you can do that on pizza. Grow up, Jamar.
Listen, if you said no, I would have allowed you to elaborate, but you said yes, and I'm done with just enough. Anyway,
classic response for someone who does not have a leg to stand on with their argument. Love it. Let's move on, shall we?
Wait. But I guess, we have no idea because we didn't see any other players to my knowledge. I'm not like following players everywhere on social media, but I did see the Snapchat post from Quickley. So I didn't see any other players there. So I don't know if that was the actual thing or if Quickley was just trying to throw everybody off and their thing is still today because it was reported that it was going to be today after practice. So we'll get these answers today, I guess. And I guess even tomorrow we'll figure out exactly where they went, what they ate. Was there any pizza involved? Was a whole meal just pizza, or is pizza just on the side? And I've already done quite a bit in depth talking about this. So what's your
I'm glad you put the brakes on yourself. Yeah, a for the ages. The pizza party theory. We love it. Should they have done it before the Luka game? Would it affect their defensive ability? Are they going to be slow and weighed down by pizza against the Warriors and their flex actions? What are we going to do? Jamar, watching this game, I think this hammered home what I think we've known this, but what the main sort of objective needs to be for the front office going forward, which is find a defensive ace wing of some kind, some caliber somewhere, whether it's in the draft and you groom them along or making a big splash this summer with your surplus draft picks. It's got to happen. You threw all of the best things you could at Luka scheme-wise in this game, but to actually slow down Luka, you need a combination of variable schemes and high-end individual defensive players. And the Raptors, I think, were pretty exposed for their lack of super high-end individual defensive players in this game. It will happen in games against the Celtics with Jason Tatum, against, Giannis, against all of the biggest wings in the NBA. It's going to be a thing for this team. And I think it's just like a pretty glaring, okay, this is the next step. They clearly have something cooking here. There is like an identity, there's a vision, and I think they're probably a lot closer to being in the sort of, top 6 consideration for next season than you might think based on their results this season. Obviously, it's a brand new season. They are a new team entirely over the last couple weeks here. And so I think going into the summer, if you can find a way to sort of hit the go button and find a big wing, maybe you swoop in and try to, convince the Nets to give you Mikal Bridges, maybe a Trey Murphy or Herb Jones shakes loose in New Orleans, whatever it might be, that is clearly priority number one. And I think even more than taking players in this year's draft, finding a way to turn what you have in terms of assets into a big, nasty defensive wing is number one for me on the list of priorities for the Raptors right now. And this game totally hammered that home for me. Jamar, we will leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out, buddy. Always a pleasure to chat. Do you have anything you want to promote for the good people out there?
Yeah, I'm getting back to it to begin March regarding my recaps and previews. Took a little bit of a week off, but my Twitter, Jamar BHJAMARBH for people who are listening. All my Raptors Republic work is there. I will have a preview and a recap for the Warriors game coming up on Friday.
We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody out there. You're all the best. Thanks for rocking with the show, for subscribing, rating, reviewing, telling a friend, all that good stuff. Joining the Discord, link is in the description. Free to join. Please do that. And we will talk to you again on Friday. Content TBD. I'm going to try to get a guest. Maybe we'll do a mailbag. We'll figure it out, but we'll have yourself a Friday episode to listen to, sending you off into your weekend. Until then, thank you so much for hanging. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Oh, my God. You got to make at least one.
I hit the roof this time.